bag of chips, pint of ice cream. Pick your favorite vice. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, I'm not even hungry, so why am I eating this? My guest today, Tricia Nelson, lost 50 pounds after years of emotional eating. She has since devoted decades to helping women uncover the real roots of that behavior. Today, she's here to dish on why we turn to food when what we actually need is something else entirely. If you want to know what emotional eating really is, why we do it, and how to finally break the cycle, this episode is for you. Hello, my friend, and welcome to the Belong Wellness Podcast. I am your host, Jessica Long. I am a health coach specializing in perimenopause, a longtime fitness instructor, mama of two littles, and a wife. If you are a midlife woman wondering what the actual F is going on with your hormones, your emotions, your relationships, your career, and your life in general, then you belong here. Join me each week as I share my own personal stories of how I navigate this wild stage of life. I also bring in experts and fellow badass midlifers to share their incredible stories of career pivots, managing relationships, parenting, living a healthy lifestyle, and much more. So listen, if midlife has you feeling like you're just not yourself anymore and alone in the chaos, this podcast is for you. Grab your giant water bottle, snap on your weighted vest, and let's get to it. Well, I think I would be hard-pressed to find any woman in midlife who could honestly say that she has never eaten for emotional reasons. It's just something that almost all of us can relate to. So today's topic is highly relevant. Tricia, thank you so much for coming on the show to help us understand what this is, why we do it, and how we can mindfully and healthfully break the cycle.
I am so thrilled to be here. It's a really important topic. I think you're absolutely right on the money. People, if we're women, we like to eat and we tend to dip into emotional eating. I think everybody does it. Men do it too. We don't have the corner on the market, but it is more annoying because we have cultural standards of beauty, that weigh down on us. So I was definitely an emotional eater from the get-go and had no idea. I think a lot of people are like, oh, I just like food. But I think after this show, they might think a little differently.
That's exactly where I want to start. What
Okay,
is
good.
the definition of emotional eating? Because I think there's probably some of us who do it, but can put a different spin on it. So we think, oh no,
Totally.
that's not what I'm doing. I'm doing this. So give us the definition of emotional eating.
I will give you the ultra scientific definition.
The nerdier, the better.
Eating to feel better, which is totally not scientific, but
Okay, so like versus eating to fuel your body because you're hungry.
yeah. Like we eat to fuel, like you said, fuel your body, get energy, fill your stomach because it's time to eat again. This is eating because we just need a little boost. We just need a little boost. We just are feeling kind of down, and what can I eat? What would do it for me? Like, it has nothing to do with nutritional need. It's like I need something to feel better. And so we don't think, oh, we're burying our emotions or we're eating to numb out. We're like, no, I like chocolate. So it's a very blurry line. And so it does take some self-awareness to realize that we're doing it. But boy, it makes a big difference when we start to wake up because we're doing it a lot more than we realize. Like we are wandering into the kitchen after a stressful phone call or after an argument with our kids, and we're just needing something. And to me, that's emotional eating, is food is doing something for us. And I can tell you in more specific ways what it's doing to us, or what it's doing for us is really, because we know what it does to us when we overeat, but what it's doing for us is news to people because we're thinking, no, I just like chocolate, or this is my favorite pasta, or whatever. First of all, I will say it's mostly sugar and carbs that we're overdoing it on. It's rarely steak or salad.
It never is. And why is that?
Well, that's in part because, first of all, sugar and carbs do hit our reward centers more in our brain, and they give us a dopamine hit. So it does feel better. Like physiologically, it does make us feel better. It also carbs calm us down. So there's an effect, a serotonin effect as well. But also, those are the yummy foods. They're the ones that are hard to put down. So one square of chocolate never satisfied me. Like I wanted half a bar. And so people who really go overboard with food tend to be people who also struggle with food and weight. They tend to be binge eaters. They don't have to be. Like emotional eating doesn't mean you have to be overweight or a binge eater. But it does mean we're using food for comfort. I call it for recreation. We're using it when we are feeling lonely or a little empty. People will call that boredom. And so there's definitely emotional need that the food is fulfilling. But in terms of people starting to wrap their head around this, I recommend taking the PEP test. And PEP is an acronym which helps us understand how the food is serving us. So the first P stands for painkiller. We use food as a painkiller because uncomfortable feelings translate as pain oftentimes. It's not like you have to be in extreme pain, emotional or physical, but being uncomfortable can feel like pain because we'd rather just feel good. Right? So getting a bill in the mail that we didn't plan on, having a kid that's dysregulated, having a marriage that's rocky right now. These are painful experiences. And so these are the things that we use food for, excess food, because it does soften the edges of life. It just makes things easier to get through. So food is totally serving an emotional function for us. Like it's like a warm blanket, and that's why it's carbs and sugar, because that's what feels the most comforting, and we're kind of padding ourselves so life doesn't feel so sharp. And so that's really what we're doing. That's the P. Okay, we use food as a painkiller. We also use food as an escape. And what I mean by that is if you've ever done what I've done, I was a binger. I was 50 pounds overweight as a result. And I would sit in front of the television with like cookies and ice cream, let's say, and then maybe some chips as well, because you got to have salty with the sweet. So I'd sit in front of the TV, not only binge on food, but binge on TV as well, because it helped me escape my own mind. Because up here was very busy. And not only busy, but kind of mean girl. I was not nice to myself. My thoughts were critical, certainly critical of other people. Like other people got the spillover of what I was doing to myself, which is, you didn't do that right. You should have done better. Why didn't you, accomplish that? Or look at these women in my life. They're so accomplished. I don't have those letters by my name. It goes on and on and on. And it's exhausting living with those kinds of thoughts. And so food just sort of lets us get away from it all temporarily. And that's why food and TV go together so well, because we do escape within our own house. The last letter in PEP, the other P, stands for punishment, which seems a bit counterintuitive because we use food as a reward. We're always like, oh, after this, I'm going to reward myself. I'm going to go, get my favorite ice cream, or I'm going to go out to dinner at this particular place, that's pricey, but ooh, it's going to be so good. So we use food as a reward. So it's hard to think of it as a punishment. However, if you think about how you feel fast forward after going overboard and feeling stuffed, and the next day you're bloated and you don't want to go to brunch with your girlfriends because your face is a little full, and you want to stay in bed and pull the covers up for some sheet therapy, that's not exactly a reward. That's starting to feel like a punishment. And then it begs the question, why would I do that? In my experiences, as emotional eaters, we're also overfeelers. We're overeaters and overfeelers, and we feel guilty about everything. Like, will the guilty party please stand up? And we're the first ones on our feet.
Well, I was going to ask that because, well, so first of all, it sounds like emotional eating is trying to change your current emotional state. You're feeling
100%.
this and you want to feel this. I'm feeling
100%.
X. I want to feel Y. Food's
Yep.
going to get me there. Okay. But all of us feel these feelings,
Yeah.
but not all of us eat as the result. So are some of us predisposed to emotional eating? Are there certain qualities that some of us have that make us choose that as our coping mechanism versus something else?
Yeah, I know for myself, because I started really young, there are some things that can predispose us to it. For instance, our genes. If you have parents who struggle with food and weight, there's a likelihood you'll struggle with food and weight because you have their genes, meaning you gain weight easily. And it doesn't automatically make you an emotional eater, but when you do have that predisposition to weight gain, somehow it seems to go along with the interest in food as well, or the allergy, let's say, to sugar. I was a sugar addict. Like once I started eating sugar, I could not stop. It was real kryptonite for me, and it was my favorite thing to eat. But both my parents were chubby growing up, so they had weight issues. They got thinner as they got older, but I have the genes for gaining weight easily, so that's how I ended up with 50 extra pounds by age 21. But there's other things too. It can be trauma from your past. It doesn't have to be, but I was sexually abused as a kid by a relative. And food is usually, when you're a young kid and you have trauma, you don't have a lot of options. Like, where are you going to run and hide? You're not going to talk to anybody about it. You're going to act like everything's fine. And food, again, softens the edges of life. It's like the comfort when we don't know how to get comfort elsewhere. And especially if it's sexual abuse, we are trying to cover up our bodies and hide and be unlovable, unwanted by gaining weight. So very subconsciously, of course, I didn't think of that. I just love food. But looking back, the food and the fat felt like protection to me. And so there are a lot of different ways we come by emotional eating, but I think in our culture it's also kind of baked in because we're always looking at commercials for food. Food is so yummy. Manufacturers are adding sugar to everything we eat, even if it doesn't need it, like bread, like pasta sauce, soups. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, hey, let's sell more, add sugar. So it's hard to escape. And so I think it's a spectrum where everybody is on the spectrum. I mean, think of breastfeeding. Like, that's a healthy use of food for connection, right? Like, we eat and we connect with our mothers, with our kids through breastfeeding. But then as you move up the spectrum, you're getting into addiction territory where if you go overboard numerous times, a week or in a month, it adds up, right? It's easy to gain weight, or you try to mitigate the weight gain with compulsive exercise or bulimia. But the point is that when you're in the more addictive range, that's higher on the spectrum, it's really because you lack control. Like, you can't just pull back easily, and the consequences are getting greater. I have a quiz on my website where somebody can find out where they are on that spectrum and get a personalized score. Because on the high end is the addiction range, meaning you're food addicted, or just an emotional eater, in a more advanced stage. And so taking that quiz can help, kind of with figuring out where you are and what steps you need to take. But I was definitely a food addict. So if you go back to the control and consequences, I didn't have good control. So let's say, like, I went on a cruise and I prepay, and so the alcohol and all the food is prepaid. So of course you have to eat it, and you have to eat all that you can. So if I were to eat all I could and I came home and my pants were tight, 5 pounds, let's say, I gained from all that indulging. Somebody on the low end of the spectrum would be like, ugh, I'm feeling a little sick of how my jeans are looking on me. So I'm going to jog extra and I'm going to cut out sugar for the next month. And boom, those 5 pounds are off and we're feeling good again. But somebody who's on the higher end of the spectrum will come home the same 5 pounds, which is not a big consequence, but it could lead to a lot of self-loathing and self-recrimination. Like, I can't believe I dieted before the cruise and now I just blew all those those benefits of the dieting. I feel sick. I'm going to just wear black stretchy yoga pants for a while and nothing changes. And before I know it, this 5 pounds turns into 10 or 15 pounds. And it could be months before I get back on track. That's somebody on the higher end of the spectrum. They have very little control to course correct. And the consequences, if you live that way over time, 10 years, 20 years, I mean, I have women who come to me and they've been doing that for 50 years. Your body's going to talk back to you. Like you're going to have bone issues. You're going to have joint pain. You might be pre-diabetic. So it adds up. You know, the consequences mount the older you get and the longer you've been in this kind of dieting, yo-yoing roller coaster ride.
It's such a slippery slope, too, because that person that's on the higher end of the spectrum, their coping mechanism is to eat, to feel better. So here they are feeling guilty, feeling down about themselves, feeling bad in their body. So their coping mechanism that they usually turn to is food. And to what you were saying earlier, this is something that is highly accessible. It's cheap. It's easy for even children to go out and get on their own. And it's something that we need. So it's not something that you can give up cold turkey and walk away from. It's something that you have to change your relationship with, which I think makes it even harder.
You are so on the money. And the thing is, we tend to really beat ourselves up over it thinking, oh, it's only food. I can't believe I'm powerless over a cookie. That's so lame. And so we don't take it as seriously. And then we extra think we should do it on our own. Like we should solve it on our own. So we have shame around not being able to control what we eat. But to your point, it's the hardest of all addictive habits because you do have to eat. You can't just put the plug in the jug like with alcohol. And so that makes it so much harder. You have to take basically your nemesis out of the refrigerator 3 times a day and try to deal with it in a healthy way. Don't go overboard, right? Like don't eat too much. And then put it back in the refrigerator without falling down that rabbit hole. And that's trickier. To me, it's all the more reason why we need help. We don't mind hiring a trainer if we want to, get fit. We know we need somebody keeping us accountable, or we know we want to excel, so we're going to get there the fastest by getting somebody to coach us. But when it comes to food, which is the hardest, and we've usually had this problem longer, all the more reason why we're going to need some support. And it's just...
So how do we break this cycle? I mean, we know the 12-step program. We know Alcoholics Anonymous. We know kind of what to do if we're addicted to those types of substances. But I don't think I would know what to do if I was on the higher end of the spectrum for how to break this. And so often what people turn to are diets. But to your point from your book, you mentioned that food isn't the problem, it's the symptom. And like we've been saying, there's a different root cause here. And I'm a lover of finding the root cause and trying to solve that. And I think that's what your program does. So tell us, if you're finding yourself anywhere on the spectrum and you want to be changing that relationship, how do you address the root cause?
Yeah, it's so important. And I am all about that because for me, I tried all the diets. That is the first place you go, dieting, diet and exercise, diet and exercise. I did that, but it didn't change me fundamentally. I still was obsessed with food. I was obsessed with weight. And I always went back to it. I always went back to overeating. I could last like 2 weeks. The new diet syndrome gives you a little boost. You're like, I'm doing it. Working out and eating salads. And then after 2 weeks, you're like, give me chocolate. Where's the popcorn? And so it can't last because we're dealing with the symptom. We're changing the symptom. So if you think about it, diets just take away all your favorite coping skills, like every food that's yummy, I call it ooey gooey and chewy, like that's what gets us through the day. That's what takes the edge off. That's what makes us happy. That's our reward. You take all that away and life is barren. It is like
not worth living.
Yes, like what can I do now? Pour more wine, go heavy on the wine. So we're looking for something. And diets just take all that away, and everything that the food was covering up, because whether we know it or not, we are using food to numb, using food to cover up emotion. You take all those fun foods away, you will have a lot of feelings. You'll cry more, you'll be more stressed out, you'll be more bitchy, like yell at your kids and not know why, because you just took away your coping mechanism. So of course you're going to go back to it. But we blame ourselves. Oh, I suck at dieting, or I'm such a loser. Sally and Shelly lost weight and kept it off, but I can't.
I have no willpower.
You have no always willpower. I don't have willpower. I never have. Probably never will, Jessica. But what's helped me and what I learned is that it is not a willpower issue. It's absolutely important to know that there's 3 things that are driving this problem. And I call it driving the compulsion. So we're always trying to diet, but then that craving for food, like looking around for something, that's driven by 3 things. The first are emotions. When we have emotions all day long, or we're upset, or we're stressed and job's not going well, whatever the case may be, we don't face it. Like culturally, we're just like stuff. Let's distract. Let's just distract ourselves. Go for a run, watch TV, eat a gummy, whatever. And so it's really important to know that emotions are being packed down every distraction we turn to. So if you aren't eating, those emotions are coming up. The second thing that drives that craving, because the craving is really just like pressure. It's pressure pushing us to seek relief from something. We need like it's sort of like the pressure valve. And the second thing is stress. So stress creates that pressure because we tend to be overdoers. Overeaters are overdoers. And we're always looking for validation outside of ourselves. We tend to be big time people pleasers, where we want the atta girls, which causes us to overcommit. We overcommit, we overschedule, and then we're overwhelmed. And what do you do when you're overwhelmed? You eat. You take the pressure relief valve from food. So stress is a big part of that compulsion. And the third thing is habit, pure habit. We're just used to walking into the kitchen and looking in the refrigerator. Like we don't think about it. It's automatic. It's just what you do, and we don't realize it. If there's a jar of candy, usually our hands are in it. M&Ms, like, yeah, just give me some. And we don't even think not to. It's just how we're oriented. We're oriented towards snacky foods that can give us a little lift in the moment. And so emotions that get buried, stress that's always there, and then habit. These are the three things that sort of build up that pressure that forces us to eat even when we know better. So you ask the question, what do you do? Those are the 3 places you go. You start dealing with the emotions, and people think, oh, okay, I guess I have to go to therapy. Not necessarily. Like in my book, I talk about 24 personality traits that make up the emotional eater's personality. So I've done a lot of the work for people. They don't need 20 years of therapy. Those traits are traits that are getting us into trouble. People pleasing, like I just mentioned, is one of them. Probably the top one. When we're people pleasing, like trying to be all things to all people, the reason why it ends up bad and we end up overeating is because, first of all, we're running ourselves ragged. So it's kind of like stress. The stress and emotional part is there. We're saying yes to too many things. We're not good at saying no. And this is true of women in general. We're not good at saying no and putting boundaries on our time. And so we're overdoing it. And then not only that, we're super resentful, because nobody's ever as pleased as we're planning on them being when we overcommit and take on the project and stay up till midnight baking the brownies for the soccer team. And so being resentful and exhausted is the perfect storm for the I deserve it binge. Like screw them, they're not gonna recognize me. I'll reward myself. So that's
I knew
how
the R word was coming. Resentment. Yeah. Like with these buried emotions, it's got to be bubbling up here pretty soon.
It is there all over the place. And we can't live that way without overeating. Because first of all, it's just a miserable place to be, being pissed off all the time. And then, of course, since we're people pleasers, we have a smile on our face. So we're like, oh, it's fine. Which we know what fine stands for. Effed up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. So that's how we end up.
Okay, so if you don't need 20 years of therapy, though, what can you do?
Yeah, so, I mean, first things first, you have to pull back on the busy. We're addicted to busy. It's so easy, and I'm guilty as well. But we have to have time for self-care. We have to start our day. I call it putting money in your spiritual bank account. We have to get still and quiet and be able to just kind of recharge. And whether it's going for a walk in nature, meditation, breathing, something that just like you're going within, you're building from within. I call it putting money in your spiritual bank account that you can take withdrawals from later in the day, because at 3 or 4 you are needing something, and it's usually coffee or chocolate. And if you were to invest and put something in that bank account, then you're not in the red. You're not reaching for unhealthy things. So that's really important. Is have a morning routine that can fill your cup, if you will. Other things that's really important is community. I mean, I do my program, I have women in community who are getting together and talking, because my experience is if you are an emotional eater or food addicted, you need other emotional eaters around you. Because we have spent a lifetime feeling so strange and different, and like we're the only ones. I mean, in my TEDx talk, I reenact eating out of the garbage. I used to binge and then throw the rest of my binge foods out and then go get them later. I'm like, I know there's cookies in there. So I'd go get them. And then, Jessica, I thought I was the worst person in the world. Like, oh my God, I can't believe I just did that. I'm horrible. Well, it turns out hundreds of thousands of people have done the same thing. They're all commenting on my TEDx talk. Oh my God, I've done that too, garbage eating. But we all think we're the only one, which then compounds the isolation and the loneliness and the self-recrimination, which of course leads to more overeating to feel better in the moment. And it's a vicious cycle. So being in community with other people, getting coached, is really important, because our heads are so mean and so busy and always dogging us for something. So having somebody that's on our side, really, really important. Also having a program, like having a system to heal, is really important. Like we need a step-by-step system, and not one that's just like mindful eating or intuitive eating. Even though these are sound principles, when you're an emotional eater, it's not enough. Like I would intuit that I should eat another croissant, I'm pretty sure that's what I should have. I was off. My signals were off. My intuition wasn't working.
Oh, interesting. You couldn't even trust yourself at that
No,
point.
you can't, because the
But
signals are skewed.
would you say an emotional eater knows or can feel or understands the difference between a physical hunger cue and a non-physical hunger cue? Or is that what you're saying, that those lines are getting crossed?
The cues are completely skewed because they're mixed up with our emotional burden, with our pain, with our resentment, with our loneliness. Emotional eaters are emotional people. We're deep feelers, and we're not hungry for food. We're hungry for connection. We're hungry for a deeper conversation.
Feeling understood too, it sounds like. Yes. This might be part of it, based on all the emotions you were talking about that can lead to this. It's like the people pleasing without the affirmation, and then the people are never really that pleased anyway. So I can see how that's all coming together. Yeah.
Bingo. Absolutely.
Okay. I do want to talk about this a little bit more specifically through the lens of midlife. Is emotional eating different in our late 30s, 40s, early 50s than it is in our 20s, or is it pretty much the same deal?
Sadly, it's pretty much the same. It's just that we've spent a couple decades going at it the wrong way. And then our bodies are starting to pay the price for all the dieting that we've done.
So it almost compounds
and
gets worse with all the hormonal chaos that's going on. Oh,
absolutely. Boy. The hormonal changes, of course, are gonna put an interesting twist on things, but I find that people often want that to be the reason why they're struggling with their weight, and they overlook the emotional eating part. in which case nothing gets solved. You can take hormones or supplements, but if you still have this emotional connection with food where it's what you want late at night, right? It's what you're eating in front of the TV. It doesn't matter what you do hormonally. Now, you might be less hungry, and medications will make you less compulsive with food, I hear. But if you're an emotional eater or a food addict, you use food to fill a void. So the void is there way back when we try to diet, nothing works, and so here we are in our 40s and we're like, oh my God, I can't do another diet because I just fail. So forget it. So then we try to get okay with how we are, which may work, and that's not a bad thing at all. It never worked for me. Like, I just wasn't okay with the extra weight on my body. I just felt like there has to be a better way, and that's what drove me to find a better way and teach a better way. But obviously the ups and downs of hormonal changes are hard. Like, it's hard. The changes in our brain is hard because you feel like you're going crazy. So I'm not saying it's not real. It totally is real. It's just that if we're emotional eaters, that still has to be addressed in concert with anything else we're doing to help our physical selves.
It just layers on more complication. This is just a really complicated time.
Yeah, it totally is. It totally is. But all the more need to get community support from other people who have the same problems, because we can tend to think we're going crazy. Think, again, we're the only ones. And we do need the oxytocin of relationship, the oxytocin of realizing other people are there for us. It's just, as women, we need a lot of support. And so to me, the older I've gotten, the more I need. And the more time I spend seeking it. You think, oh, the older you get, the more you know, the easier it is. No, it's like the more we have the hormonal changes, and then life changes as the kids get older, as they leave the house. We just have to tend to our emotional selves, and we're not used to doing that. That just isn't in our culture. Like, to get sister support. It's a little awkward. Like, we're like, but I'm supposed to be able to figure it out. No, you're supposed to be in relationship with other people who struggle as well, so you can lift each other up.
I think so many of us listening can relate to, I can do it all on my own, that got us through our 20s and our 30s. And it's finally in our maybe mid to late 40s where we're starting to release that grip a little bit and actually shift our priorities. So bump up the priority of taking care of myself more than I have in the past, and also seeing more of the value in the community support like you're talking about, and not feeling such a strong desire to figure it all out on our own. At least for me, I don't feel that desire anymore. And I felt it so strongly before. I mean, I had to do everything on my own. I didn't want the help. It wasn't even that I couldn't ask for it, it's that I didn't want it. I wanted to be able to say at the end of the day, I did this by myself. And that just does not matter to me anymore at all. And in fact, I really appreciate the perspectives of other people. And I see how narrow my own thinking is. No matter how hard I try to be expansive and open, someone else will come up with something that I never thought of. And I'm like, oh, that's amazing. So absolutely get the help. Give yourself the gift of the help and support of other people that understand you.
I think of like tennis players. I love tennis. So I think of people who are, try to win Grand Slams or the US Open or Wimbledon, and they have like 3 coaches. Like, they don't have one coach. They have like a team.
Oh, and they have their physios and they have therapists, and the first people they always think are their team. I'm a huge tennis fan too. Yeah. So it's like I'm the person on the court playing the match, but those are all the people doing all the work.
Yeah, and they always thank them. They're very clear. I'm not a lone wolf down here winning this game. I have a team of support, and there's no shame. Like, oh, I have a team. Nobody's ashamed of it. It's like, no, I want to be the best. I'm going to enlist as much support as I can afford so I can get there faster. But for us, when it comes to food, we're all kind of weird about it, and we're like, I'm gonna figure it out myself, and I'm gonna pretend I don't have the problem. And first of all, you're in really good company because like half the world is overeating, and then why not get a solution sooner rather than literally just brought on a new client who's 81. Okay, so I have women in their 80s who have dieted for 60 years. 60 years. And it's like, don't be that. Don't be that. Like seek a solution now. Because this problem doesn't get up and go away on its own. It doesn't just get up and say, I'm out of here. No, no, no. It transmutes itself. You think you're done, and then it comes back the minute. I always call it the until moment. Like, I was doing good until, my mom died. I was doing good until I changed jobs. I was doing good until, my son got sick. So it's like we're always, the until will bring it right back if we don't go deeper and really eradicate the problem.
So tell me what it's like working with you. Are you handling these buried emotions, helping with stress support and habit change? So those three things you walked us through?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a really cool program, and I have coaches in my program who have been through my process. I'm in there as well, doing a lot of the group work. So we have calls on Zoom. I help women all around the world. And I do have a very clear step-by-step process that's in module form that people do take step by step online. And then we have group calls on Zoom, private coaching as well. We have a movement class where people can just move to really cool music with one of my coaches who's lost over 100 pounds. So it's like a big warm hug over Zoom. So it's very loving, very compassionate. There's no diet jargon at all. I don't even give people a food plan because that just brings in that diet mentality. So my experience is when we, start dealing with our stress, I'm a lot into self-care, teaching people how to slow down and develop self-care habits and basically put themselves first, And people are like, oh, that's so selfish. No, if you put yourself first, then you have more to give other people, frankly. Your well is full. So it's just, it gives people reminders to take care of themselves, but it's very specific for emotional eaters. And that's why, I think it's so quickly effective. What I do, I stay in my own lane. Like, I help women who struggle with food chronically, and my solution is not nebulous, like mindful eating. It's like, no, here's what you do. Each day you get up and here's what you do, and it has mostly to do with self-care, has to do with processing your emotions, has to do with speaking up. So a lot of self-esteem stuff. So it's kind of a whole person solution, because food is a symptom, and it's powerful and really lovely.
I love that. This is the first time I've heard someone approach weight issues without giving a diet plan at all. So
Yeah.
I love
People aren't,
hearing that.
yeah, women aren't stupid. They've been studying this for years. They know salads are better than pizza. Like I don't have to tell you something you don't know. It's the follow through. We can't do it. We can't do what we know. That's the kicker. So what I do addresses that. It helps people actually follow through with all the knowledge, all the books they've read, all the courses they've taken, so they can actually make good on those investments and be able to follow through. But it comes from within. We're used to saying, give me the diet. I'll follow the diet until I can't follow the diet. This comes from within to where you actually crave a salad. It's not like, oh, damn, I got to eat that instead of that. No, you actually want that. You want to eat something healthy that feels good in your body and makes you feel good. And you notice how food feels in your body because you're waking up. You're waking up to yourself. So it's a lot more holistic. It's beautiful, and it helps with everything in your life. The husbands love my program because their wives are less bitchy. Or they're just not, binging at night. They're just more awake and alive to their relationships. They're more awake and alive as parents because food obsession just takes you completely out of the present moment, and kids are like, Mom's here physically, but she ain't really here, so it really helps families. If mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy, right? So it really helps.
So true. And it does. It sounds like your program could just be a way to heal through so many things, emotional eating
Yes.
being one of them. But
Yes.
that's so lovely. If you could leave anyone listening who feels like, okay, she's talking about me, I'm on the spectrum somewhere, if you could leave her with one tip or one thing that she could do starting today to help herself, what would that be?
Take that quiz and find out where you are on the emotional eating spectrum. I would also say just sit down and breathe. Like, you're good. I was told many years ago, as a human being, not a human doing. And I don't know where I got the message, but at some point I'm like, I'm not enough unless I have these accomplishments. And it's just not true. Like, we're enough, period. Period, full stop.
I fall prey to that as an Enneagram 5. I'm like, I don't have enough letters after my name, all that stupid stuff. Where can everyone find you and find this quiz that you're directing us to?
Healyourhunger.com, HEAL, healyourhunger.com. And yeah, the quiz is right there, front and center. And my book is on there, my TEDx talk is on there, my podcast, the whole thing. And Instagram, I'm Tricia Nelson _. And I have lots of fun little inspirational, motivational videos as well.
Thank you so much for your time and sharing your wisdom with us today. I really appreciate it.
It's been such a pleasure. Thank you, Jessica.
Okay, here are my 3 big takeaways from today's conversation with Tricia Nelson. 1, emotional eating isn't really about food. It's about trying to change how we feel in the moment. 2, midlife stress and hormonal chaos complicate the issue, but they're not the root cause. 3, real freedom comes when we start caring for our emotions, managing our stress, and changing our habits, not just cutting carbs. If this episode struck a chord, I'd love for you to do me a quick favor. Head over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify and leave a rating or review. It's the best way to help other smart and sassy midlife women just like you find the show, and it means the world to me. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next week.